The great hall of the Galactic Council was filled with fear. Han Yuna could smell it the moment she walked through the doors. The aliens around her were prey species. They had evolved from creatures that ran from danger. And right now, every single one of them wanted to run. Yuna was human. She did not want to run. She walked past rows of trembling delegates. Some looked like tall deer with silver fur. Others had the appearance of large rabbits with 6 legs. A few resembled birds with too many wings. All of them watched her with wide, nervous eyes. At the center of the hall, Elder Prince stood on a raised platform. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His fur had turned white with age, and his antlers were covered in ceremonial gold. He was speaking to the assembly, but his voice carried no hope. "The Vorath have given us their final answer," Prince said. "They will not leave the Nera system. They will not release the civilians. They have blocked all communication." A wave of whispers spread through the crowd. 3 million people were trapped in that system. Traitors, families, children. The Vorath did not care. The Vorath never cared. "We have tried everything," Prin continued. "We offered them resources. We threatened them with our combined fleets. We even tried to bribe their commanders. Nothing worked." A delegate from the rabbit-like species raised a trembling hand. "Then we must prepare for war. War with the Vorath means death," another delegate cried out. "They are predators. They live for killing. We cannot win against them." Prin lowered his head. "I fear you speak the truth. The Vorath do not think like us. They do not value peace or trade or cooperation. They only understand strength and blood. You cannot negotiate with predators." The room fell silent. Despair hung in the air like a heavy cloud. That was when Han Yuna stepped forward. "Watch me." Every eye in the room turned to look at her. Yuna was not tall. She was not physically impressive. She had no claws, no fangs, no armor. By the standards of this galaxy, she looked soft and weak. But there was something in her eyes that made the delegates pause. Something they did not understand. Elder Prin tilted his head. "I beg your pardon, Ambassador Han. You said you cannot negotiate with predators," Yuna repeated. "I am telling you to watch me do exactly that." The hall erupted into noise. Some delegates laughed nervously. Others shouted in disbelief. A few simply stared at the small human woman as if she had lost her mind. "Ambassador Han," Prince said carefully, "I respect your species. Humans have proven themselves capable partners since joining our council. But you do not understand the Vorath. They are not like you. They are hunters, killers. They have destroyed entire civilizations for sport." Yuna smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. "Elder Prin," she said, "with great respect, you do not understand humans. We are not prey. We never were." The room went quiet again. Yuna looked around at the frightened faces. "I know what you see when you look at me. Small body, no natural weapons, thin skin. You think I am like you. You think humans survived on our planet by hiding and running." She shook her head slowly. "You are wrong. Humans did not become the dominant species on Earth by running away. We became dominant by hunting. We chased animals for days without stopping. We drove entire species to extinction. We killed creatures 10 times our size with nothing but sharpened sticks and patience." She let her words sink in. "We are predators," Yuna continued. "We just do not look like it. And that is why I can do what none of you can. The Vorath will not negotiate with prey, but they might listen to another hunter." Prin was silent for a long moment. His old eyes studied the human woman with new curiosity. "What do you need?" he finally asked. "A small ship," Yuna said. "No weapons." "And 3 days. No weapons?" A delegate shouted. You will fly into Vara space unarmed? They will kill you before you can speak a single word. Yuna turned to face the speaker. Maybe, but I do not think so. The Varath are predators. They do not fear their food. They fear their competition. I intend to show them that humans are not food. She turned back to Pren. 3 days. That is all I ask. The elder looked at his fellow council members. Most of them seemed too shocked to respond. Finally, he nodded. Very well, Ambassador Han. You shall have your ship. But I must ask you one question. Ask? Why? Why would you risk your life for people who are not even your own species? Yuna thought about the question for a moment. She thought about the 3 million civilians waiting to die. She thought about the families and children who would never see their homes again if someone did not act. Because someone has to, she said simply. And no one else can. She turned and walked out of the Great Hall. As she turned and walked out of the Great Hall, the delegates watched her go in stunned silence. Outside, her assistant Tang Te was waiting. He was a tall man with serious eyes and a scar on his chin from an old fight. He had served with Yuna for 5 years and had learned to trust her instincts. But even he looked worried. Did you just volunteer us for a suicide mission? He asked. Probably, Yuna admitted. And your plan is to walk into a predator ship unarmed and ask them nicely to stop killing people? Yuna smiled again. Something like that. Tay sighed heavily. You know, this is crazy, right? Yes, and we are probably going to die. Maybe. Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head and laughed softly. Fine, let us go talk to some predators. The small ship crossed into Vara space at exactly midnight. Council time. Yuna sat in the pilot's seat, watching the stars through the window. Tay sat beside her, checking his equipment for the 10th time. He was not allowed to bring weapons, but he had brought medical supplies and emergency tools. Old habits died hard. They will detect us any moment now, Tay said quietly. I know. And then they will probably shoot us out of the sky. Maybe. Tay looked at her. You keep saying maybe. Do you actually have a plan, or are you making this up as you go? Before Yuna could answer, the ship's alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the control panel. 3 massive shadows appeared on the scanner, moving toward them at incredible speed. Vorath warships. They were shaped like teeth. Long, sharp, and designed to tear things apart. Each ship was 10 times the size of Yuna's little vessel. They surrounded her in seconds, blocking every possible escape route. A harsh voice crackled through the communication system. Unknown vessel, you have entered Vorath territory. Power down your engines and prepare to be captured. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction. Yuna pressed the response button calmly. This is Ambassador Han Yuna of Earth. I am here to speak with Commander Kreth. I come unarmed and in peace. There was a long silence. Then the voice returned, sounding almost confused. You come, unarmed, to speak with us? Yes. Another silence. Yuna could almost imagine the Vara soldiers looking at each other in disbelief. Very well, Earth creature. You will be taken to the commander. If this is a trick, you will die slowly. The communication cut off. A few minutes later, Yuna felt her ship being pulled by a powerful tractor beam. They were being dragged toward the largest warship in the fleet. Tay leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes. Well, we made it further than I expected. The inside of the Vorath flagship was dark and cold. The walls were made of black metal, covered with scratches and old blood stains. The air smelled like iron and something worse. Something that reminded Yuna of a butcher shop. Vorath soldiers lined the corridors, watching the 2 humans with hungry eyes. They were massive creatures, standing merely 3 meters tall. Their bodies were covered in gray fur. Their faces looked like wolves, but with 4 eyes instead of 2. Each soldier had 4 arms, ending in claws as long as kitchen knives. Yuna walked between them without showing fear. Tay stayed close behind her, his jaw tight but his step steady. They were brought to a large chamber at the heart of the ship. Bones decorated the walls like trophies. Strange symbols were painted in what looked like dried blood. At the center of the room stood a throne made of welded metal and more bones. On the throne sat Commander. Kreth thought he was larger than the other Vorath. His fur was darker, almost black, with streaks of silver around his face. His 4 eyes glowed with a soft blue light, watching the humans approach with cold curiosity. Scars covered his arms and chest, each one a story of battles won. Beside him stood a younger Vorath, smaller and leaner. Her fur was a lighter gray, and her eyes held something different from the others. Not hunger, curiosity. So, Kreth spoke, his voice deep and rough like grinding stones. The Grass Eaters sent a human to beg for mercy. How amusing. He stood up from his throne and walked toward Yuna. Each step made the floor shake. He circled around her slowly, studying her from every angle. Small, soft, no claws, no fangs, no armor. He stopped in front of her and leaned down until his face was inches from hers. His breath was hot and smelled like meat. Tell me, little creature, why should I not eat you right now? Yuna looked directly into his glowing eyes. She did not step back. She did not tremble. Because I'm not food, she said. Kreth blinked. For a moment, surprise flickered across his face. Then he laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks breaking. Not food? Look at yourself. You are soft and weak. You have no way to fight back. You are the definition of food. No, Yuna said calmly. I am a predator. Just like you. The laughter stopped. Every Vorath in the room went still. Kreth tilted his head. You? A predator? You must be joking. I'm not joking. Yuna kept her voice steady. Humans are the apex predators of our planet. We killed everything that challenged us. We drove thousands of species to extinction. We hunted creatures that could crush us with 1 foot, and we won. Not because we were strong. Because we never stopped. Because we never gave up. Because we chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. She took a step forward, closing the distance between them. We are not like the species you have conquered before, Commander. We do not run. We do not hide. We endure. We adapt. And we always finish the hunt. Kreth stared at her for a long moment. The room was completely silent. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had found something interesting. You have courage, little human. I will give you that. He turned and walked back to his throne. Very well. You have 1 cycle to amuse me with your words. If you bore me, I will feed you to my crew piece by piece. He waved his hand dismissively. Take them to a cell. Make sure they are comfortable. I want my entertainment to last. Guards grabbed Yuna and Tay by the arms and dragged them out of the chamber. As they left, Yuna noticed the younger Vorath watching her with those curious eyes in the dark corridor. Tay whispered to her, What now? He gave us 1 day. What is your plan? Yuna glanced back toward the throne room. Did you see that female near Kreth? The one who is watching us? Yes. Why? Because she was not looking at us like food. Yuna smiled slightly. She was looking at us like a puzzle she wanted to solve. That is our way in. Tay frowned. I still do not understand what you are actually trying to do. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that made Tay stop walking. The Vorath are not our enemies, Tay. They are trapped. Just like the civilians they captured. They just do not know it yet. Before Tay could ask what she meant, the guards threw them into a cell and slammed the door shut in the darkness. Yuna sat down and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she would have to convince a room full of killers that peace was more valuable than blood. She had faced worse odds before. The guards came for Yuna at dawn. They did not take Tay, only her. She walked alone through the dark corridors of the Vorath flagship, surrounded by soldiers who looked at her like she was already dead. They brought her to a different room this time. Not the throne chamber. This was smaller, more private. The walls were covered with trophies. Skulls of creatures she did not recognize. Weapons from 100 different worlds. Flags and banners taken from defeated enemies. Commander Kreth stood in the center of the room, looking at one particular trophy. It was a helmet, cracked and burned, mounted on the wall like a prize. "Do you know what this is?" Kreth asked without turning around. Yuna studied the helmet. It was clearly old, covered in strange symbols. A trophy from a battle you won. The last battle of the Makari Empire. Kreth finally turned to face her. They were proud warriors. Strong, fearless. They thought they could fight the Vorath and win. He touched the helmet gently. They were wrong. What happened to them? They are gone. All of them. Their worlds are empty now. Their children are dust. Kreth looked at her with those glowing blue eyes. That is what happens to those who challenge us. Little human, that is what will happen to you. Yuna did not react to the threat. Instead, she walked closer to the wall of trophies and examined them one by one. "May I ask you something, Commander?" Kreth seemed surprised by her calmness. "Ask. These trophies, these conquests, they are all old." She pointed to the dates carved beneath each item. "The newest one here is from over 50 years ago." "What have the Vorath been doing since then?" The question made Kreth go still. Yuna continued, "The galaxy fears you. Everyone knows the Vorath are dangerous. But when was the last time you actually conquered anyone? When was the last time you faced a real challenge?" "We do not need to conquer," Kreth growled. "Everyone fears us." "That is enough. Is it?" Yuna turned to face him. "Because from where I stand, it looks like the Vorath are dying. Not from war, from boredom." Kreth's four hands curled into fists. For a moment, Yuna thought she had pushed too far. But she did not stop. "You blocked the Nara system. You took hostages. Why? The resources there are not valuable enough to matter. The civilians are not a threat. You did not attack that system for profit or power." She met his eyes directly. "You did it because you have nothing else to do." The room was silent for a long moment. Then Kreth laughed. But it was not the harsh, cruel laugh from before. This was quieter, sadder. "You are clever, little human. More clever than I expected." He walked to a chair and sat down heavily. "You are also right. My people are dying, not from wounds, from emptiness." He looked at his hands. The Vorath were born to hunt, to chase, to conquer. It is in our blood, in our bones. But we have run out of prey. The galaxy learned to fear us so much that no one fights back anymore. They just run, or surrender, or die. "And that is not satisfying," Yuna said. "No, it is not." Kreth looked at her with something new in his eyes. Respect? Curiosity? She could not tell. A hunt without challenge is just killing. And killing without purpose is empty. Yuna sat down across from him. "Then let me offer you something different. More empty promises? More bribes?" Kreth shook his head. "The council tried all of that." "I am not offering promises or bribes." Yuna leaned forward. "I am offering you a new hunt." Kreth's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Humans have mapped only a small part of the galaxy. But we have found something beyond the known borders. Regions that no species has explored. Places where the stars are strange and the planets are unknown. Places full of danger and mystery. She paused to let the words sink in. The Vorath spent centuries conquering the weak. But what if you could explore the unknown instead? What if you could face challenges that no one has faced before? New worlds, new creatures, new dangers. She smiled slightly. A hunt that never ends. Kreth leaned back in his chair. His expression was hard to read. You want us to become explorers? To give up our territory and chase shadows in the dark? No. I want you to keep your territory. Keep your strength. But turn your eyes outward instead of inward. Yuna pulled a small device from her pocket. It projected a map of the galaxy in the air between them. Here, this is what we know. And here, she pointed to the vast dark spaces at the edges, is what we do not know. Your ships are faster than ours. Your warriors are stronger. You could go where we cannot. And in exchange? In exchange, you lift the blockade, release the civilians, and join the Galactic Council not as enemies, but as partners. She turned off the map. The Council species are prey. They build, they trade, they create, but they cannot explore dangerous space. They need predators to protect them. They need you. Kreth was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. You speak our language. I am. Sorry? When you arrived, you called yourself a predator. Most prey species would never say that. They would never understand what it means. He studied her face. But you do. You understand what we are, what we need. Yuna nodded slowly. Humans are predators too, Commander. We know what it feels like to hunt. And we know what it feels like to lose our purpose. Your species faced this emptiness many times. Every time we conquered something, we had to find a new challenge. It is how we grew, how we survived. She met his eyes. The hunt never ends, Commander. You just have to choose what to chase. Kreth stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. If I agree to this, he said slowly, many of my people will resist. They do not trust outsiders. They think peace is weakness. Change is always difficult, Yuna agreed. But it is better than dying slowly in an empty room full of old trophies. Kreth turned to look at her. For the first time since they met, he did not look like a predator studying prey. He looked like a leader trying to find the right path. I will think about your offer, Ambassador Han. He gestured to the door. You may return to your cell. We will speak again tomorrow. As Yuna walked to the door, she heard him say one more thing. You are not like the others, human. You see things they cannot see. Yuna paused. I see what I need to see, Commander. And right now, I see two species that could help each other if they are brave enough to try. She left the room without looking back. That night, an assassin came for her. The assassin moved like smoke through the darkness. Yuna was sleeping in her cell when she heard the soft sound of footsteps. Her eyes opened instantly. Years of training had taught her to wake at the smallest noise. A shadow stood at the door of her cell. It was a Vorath, smaller than most, wearing dark clothes instead of armor. In his hand was a curved blade that gleamed in the dim light. He was fast. Very fast. But Tay was faster. Her assistant came from the shadows like a ghost. Before the assassin could reach Yuna, Tay grabbed his arm and twisted hard. There was a snap of breaking bone. The blade fell to the floor with a clatter. The assassin screamed and tried to fight back, but Tay was already behind him. One quick strike to the throat, and the Vorath collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. Lights flooded the corridor. Guards rushed in, followed by Commander Kreth himself. He looked at the fallen assassin with cold fury in his eyes. Who sent you? Kreth demanded. The assassin spat blood and laughed weakly. Warlord Gorvik sends his regards, Commander. He says you have grown weak. He says speaking to prey creatures is a disgrace to our people. Kreth's face twisted with anger. He turned to his guards. Take him. Find out everything he knows. As the guards dragged the assassin away, Kreth looked at Yuna. I apologize, Ambassador. This should not have happened. It is not your fault, Yuna said calmly. Every society has those who resist change. Gorvik is more than that. He is a warlord. He commands a third of our fleet. Kreth's voice was heavy with worry. If he openly challenges my authority, it will mean civil war among my people. Yuna thought about this. What happens when a Vorath leader is challenged? The old way is called Rakthol, ritual combat. The winner takes command. Kreth shook his head. But Gorvak has not officially challenged me yet. He is testing the waters, seeing how others react. Then let us not give him time to gather support. Yuna stood up and straightened her clothes. Take me to him. Kreth stared at her. What? If Gorvik thinks you are weak because you spoke with me, then he needs to see what humans really are. Take me to face him directly. Ambassador, with respect, Gorvak would tear you apart. He's one of our fiercest warriors. Maybe, but if I run away now, your people will see that as proof that humans are just prey. That will make your position weaker, not stronger. Yuna met his eyes. Let me face him. Let your people see what we are. Kreth was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. The gathering happened in the great arena at the center of the fleet. Thousands of Vorath had assembled to watch. Word had spread quickly. The strange human wanted to face Warlord Gorvak. Yuna stood in the center of the arena, feeling very small. The Vorath watching her were massive, their eyes hungry for blood. They did not expect her to survive. They came to watch her die. Gorvak entered from the opposite side. He was enormous, even by Vorath standards. Nearly 4 meters tall. His fur was scarred from 100 battles. His forearms were thick with muscle. He carried 2 curved swords that looked like they could cut through steel. So this is the prey creature who thinks she can talk to predators, Gorvik laughed. His voice echoed through the arena. Look at her. Soft, weak, pathetic. This is what our commander has been wasting time with. He pointed one of his swords at Kreth. You shame us, Commander. You shame all Vorath. And I will prove it by killing your pet human. Then face me yourself, Yuna called out, her voice carrying across the arena. Gorvik stopped laughing. The crowd went silent. What did you say? You call me prey. You say humans are weak. Yuna stepped forward. Prove it. Fight me. If I am truly just food, then killing me should be easy. Gorvak's eyes narrowed. You want to die that badly? I want to show your people the truth. Yuna held up her empty hands. I have no weapons. No claws. No armor. If you are what you claim to be, you should be able to kill me in seconds. But if you cannot, she paused. Then maybe I am not the prey you think I am. The arena erupted in noise. Some Vorath were laughing. Others were shouting for blood. But many were watching with new interest. This human was either very brave or very stupid. Gorvik smiled cruelly. Very well, little creature. I accept. This will be quick. He charged. Yuna did not run. She watched him come, studying his movements. He was fast for his size, but he was also arrogant. He expected her to freeze in fear, like prey always did. At the last moment, she moved. She slipped under his first swing and rolled past him. His blade cut empty air. The crowd gasped. Gorvik spun around, confused. Stand still! He attacked again, all 4 arms swinging. Yuna ducked, dodged, and weaved. She was small enough to slip through gaps in his attacks. Every time he thought he had her, she was already somewhere else, but she could not dodge forever. His fist caught her shoulder and sent her flying across the arena. She hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her body. The crowd cheered. They expected her to stay down. She got up. Blood ran down her face. Her arm hung at a bad angle, but she stood on her feet and faced Gorvek again. "Is that all you have?" she asked. Gorvek roared and attacked again. He hit her. She fell. She got up. He hit her again. She fell. She got up. Over and over. Every time she rose, the crowd grew quieter. This was not prey behavior. Prey ran. Prey begged. Prey stayed down when they fell. This human kept getting up. Gorvek was breathing hard now. His attacks were getting sloppy. He was not used to prey that would not die. "Why will you not stay down?" he screamed. "Because that is what humans do," Una said through bloody teeth. "We keep going. We never stop. You can break our bodies, but you cannot break our will." She saw her opening. Gorvek swung wildly with all four arms. Una dove forward, inside his reach. She grabbed one of his arms and used his own momentum against him. Her knee hit the back of his leg. He stumbled before he could recover. She was on his back, her arm wrapped around his throat. He tried to shake her off. He clawed at her. He slammed her against walls. But she held on with everything she had, squeezing tighter and tighter. Slowly, Gorvek's movements became weaker. Finally, he collapsed to his knees. Una did not kill him. She leaned close to his ear and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Yield." The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Gorvek's voice came out as a broken whisper. "I yield." Una released him and stepped back. She could barely stand. Her entire body was screaming with pain. But she stayed on her feet. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, the Vorath began to stomp their feet. One at a time, then more, then hundreds. The sound built into a thunderous rhythm that shook the arena. The Hunt Salute. The highest honor a Vorath could give. Kreth walked into the arena and stood before Una. His expression was different now. The cold suspicion was gone, replaced by something warmer. "You are not prey," he said. "Perhaps we have misjudged your kind." Una smiled through the blood on her face. "Now, can we talk about that treaty?" Kreth laughed. It was a real laugh, warm and surprised. "Yes, Ambassador. I think we can." 3 weeks passed like a dream. Una spent most of that time in a medical bay on the Vorath flagship. Her injuries were serious. Broken ribs, fractured arm, internal bleeding. The Vorath doctors were not used to treating humans, but they learned quickly. They treated her wounds with the same care they would give to one of their own warriors. Lara visited her every day. The young Vorath subcommander had appointed herself as Una's unofficial guardian. She brought food, shared stories about Vorath culture, and asked endless questions about Earth. "Your planet sounds strange," Lyra said one day. "You have so many different animals, so many different environments. How did humans survive in all of them?" "We adapted," Una replied. "Wherever we went, we changed ourselves to fit. Hot deserts, frozen mountains, dense jungles. We found ways to live in all of them." Lyra tilted her head. "That is very Vorath of you. Maybe, or maybe predators are more alike than we think." When Una was finally well enough to travel, Kreth came to see her personally. He looked different now. Less tired. More hopeful. "The treaty is ready," he said. "My council has agreed to the terms. The blockade will be lifted. The civilians will be released. And we will begin the exploration partnership immediately." "What about Gorvek?" Una asked. "He has been reassigned to lead the first exploration fleet." Kreth smiled slightly. "He was furious at first. But then I told him he would be facing unknown dangers in unexplored space. Now he cannot wait to leave." Una laughed, then winced as her ribs protested. "You gave him a new hunt. You showed me how. Kreth extended one of his massive hands. "Thank you, Ambassador Han. You have given my people something we lost long ago. A reason to look forward." Yuna took his hand. It was warm and rough, covered in calluses from centuries of fighting. "Thank you for listening, Commander." That took more courage than most people realize. She returned to Council Space 2 days later. Tay sat beside her in the small ship, watching the stars pass by. "I still cannot believe you actually did it," he said. "You walked into a ship full of predators, let one of them beat you half to death, and somehow came out with a peace treaty." "Diplomacy is complicated," Yuna replied. Tay snorted. "That was not diplomacy. That was insanity. Those are sometimes the same thing." The Galactic Council was waiting for them when they arrived. The Great Hall was packed with delegates from every species in the Alliance. When Yuna walked through the doors, still bandaged and limping, the room went silent. Then Elder Prin began to clap. One by one, the other delegates joined in. The sound built until it filled the entire hall. Delegates who had laughed at her 3 weeks ago were now looking at her with something new in their eyes. Not fear, not pity, respect. Yuna walked to the central platform and placed a small device on the podium. A holographic document appeared in the air above it. "The Nara Accords," she announced. "Signed by Commander Kreth on behalf of the Varth Empire. The blockade is lifted. All civilians are being released. And the Varth have agreed to a 10-year partnership for joint exploration of unknown space." The hall erupted into cheers. Elder Prin approached her, his old face showing more emotion than she had ever seen. "Ambassador Han, how did you do this?" Yuna thought about the question. She thought about the long conversations with Kreth, about the fight with Gorvak, about Lyra's curious questions, about everything that had happened since she first walked into that dark ship alone. "I listened," she said finally. "The Vorath were not our enemies. They were lost. They had built their entire civilization around hunting and conquest. And when they ran out of things to hunt, they did not know what to do with themselves." She looked out at the assembled delegates. All they needed was someone to show them a new direction, a new purpose. Everyone wants their life to mean something, even predators. A holographic screen flickered to life behind her. On it appeared Commander Kreth, broadcasting live from his flagship. The council delegates gasped. Most of them had never seen a Varth up close before. Kreth was massive and terrifying, his blue eyes glowing in the dim light of his ship. But when he spoke, his voice was calm. "People of the Galactic Council," Kreth said, "for many generations, my people have been your enemies. We have taken your worlds, killed your people, made you fear the stars." He paused. "This was wrong. Not because we are weak or ashamed of our nature, but because we were pointing our strength in the wrong direction. We hunted those who could not fight back, and we called it victory. But there is no honor in such hunts. No meaning." He looked directly at the camera, and it felt like he was looking at every single person watching. The human ambassador showed us a different path. She reminded us that the greatest hunt is not the one you win easily. It is the one that challenges you, changes you, makes you become more than you were. Kreth smiled. It was a warrior smile, fierce but not cruel. "We will honor this treaty. We will explore the unknown together. And perhaps, in time, we will learn to see each other not as predators and prey, but as fellow hunters in a vast and dangerous universe." The screen went dark. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Elder Prin turned to Yuna. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. "You said we could not negotiate with predators. But you did more than negotiate. You changed them." "No," Yuna said. "I helped them change themselves. That is all anyone can do." Later that night, Yuna sat alone on an observation deck, watching the stars. Her body still ached from her injuries, but her heart felt light. Tay found her there an hour later. He sat down beside her without speaking. "What happens now?" he finally asked. "Now the real work begins." Yuna pointed to a distant cluster of stars. "Somewhere out there are things no one has ever seen. Planets that have never been explored. Mysteries that have never been solved. And we are going to find them with the Varith? We are going to find them with everyone who is brave enough to try." Yuna smiled. "The galaxy is big, Tay. Big enough for all of us. Predators and prey. Hunters and builders. We just need to learn to work together." A message arrived on her personal device. It was from Lara. "Thank you for everything, Ambassador. I hope you will visit our world someday. I would like to show you the sacred hunting grounds where our ancestors first learned to run. Perhaps you could teach me about your planet in return. About the persistence hunting you spoke of. About what it means to never give up." Yuna typed a reply. "I would like that very much. The hunt never ends, Lara. We just find new things to chase." She sent the message and looked back at the stars far away. At the edge of known space, a joint human-Vorith ship was preparing for its first mission. The crew was a mix of species that had been enemies just weeks ago. Now they were something else. Not friends yet, but partners. A new hunt was beginning, and for the first time in a very long while, the future looked bright. Yuna closed her eyes and let herself rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new negotiations, new impossibilities to make possible. But tonight, she had earned this moment of peace. The stars burned on, eternal and uncaring. But somewhere out there, in the darkness between worlds, something was changing. Two species that should have been enemies were learning to work together. And a small human woman had shown the galaxy that even predators could choose a different path. You cannot negotiate with predators. They had said, "Watch me," she had replied, and she had proven them wrong.